I am Nkosinathi Ndlovu, and this is the TechCentral Show, brought to you by MTN Business. You can visit them on mtnbusiness.co.za, and we thank them for partnering with the show. Today, we speak all things township economy. My guest is author, consultant, and Kasi economy expert, GG Alcock. GG, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. GG, it might come as a surprise for most people when they meet Umlungu, and he's an expert not just on the township from an economic perspective, but you have a deep cultural understanding of the township as well. Could you tell us a bit about how the life of GG Alcock became so closely interwoven with the township?
Sure. So I grew up in a place called Msinga in KwaZulu-Natal. My parents were political activists and community workers. And they brought us up in a mud hut in a Zulu village in Msinga. And we grew up among the Mtunu and the Mtembu tribes. And my mother taught us at home. And so we just grew up basically brought up like local Zulu kids, stick fighting, goat herding. And then post finishing school, I couldn't go to university, so I couldn't afford to go to university. So I started my kind of career as a community worker and political activist as well in the mid-'80s, and then ended up through a long kind of story in the townships. I realized that the only kind of skill I had was in accessing places that other people either didn't know existed or were afraid to go to or didn't even know there was activities there. And so with two friends of mine, Jabulani Pagati and Sandile Busane, we started a business called Minanawe Marketing. And Minanawe was really the first business to focus on the townships as an economy and as a marketing opportunity.
Yes. Excellent. So going back to those Minanawe days, I'm a township boy myself. I'm from Soweto.
Sure.
And one of the things that I enjoy, obviously, is ikota,
Yes.
And many youngsters would not know that back in the day, to have a slice of cheese in your kota was not the norm. It was something difficult to get. But you actually played a significant role in making that happen. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So in 2005, Parmalat asked us if we would launch cheese slices into the townships.
Yes.
Originally, they wanted us to launch into like the lunch boxes, school lunch boxes. And we said to them, no, kids don't get lunch boxes, they get ikere or pocket money, and they buy from the Obomama who are selling, kind of snacks, shwams, geeps, and other things in the schoolyard. And then we suggested that they launch into kotas and amagwinya being fed cook. And that was in 2005. At the time, rich black kids were called cheese boys or cheese girls because cheese never existed in the township space unless you were rich. And we launched into kotas and amagwinya. And today, Parmalat sells in excess of 3 billion rands worth of cheese slices a year going into kotas and fed cook. And in fact, today it's very unlikely you'll get ikota without a cheese slice.
Yes.
So it was a hugely successful campaign, and we really kind of pioneered that kind of thing of really understanding lifestyle or behavior, and then finding ways we could fit brands or products into that kind of space.
Yes. So talking about understanding lifestyle, you recently did some work with Lesaka Technologies to understand how it is that digitization is changing behavior in the informal economy. Could you start by giving us an overview of what that is?
Sure. So maybe to rewind a little bit is that I think that the problem when people think of township, ekasi, I call my books Kasinomics because of the kind of trying to change this mindset about what the township was. But when they think of Kasi or informal, it tends to be kind of low income, low tech, unsophisticated and so on. And actually the mistake is that this is a very high tech space, but it's often appropriate technology, so people are using smartphones and stuff in the ways that work for them. So we've seen over quite a long time the kind of growth of for instance, WhatsApp, Facebook Lite on smartphones. And I mean, give you an example. There's a young baker in White City in Soweto. You'll know White City, who has a bakery. And over lockdown, he had a real problem with with his bread because people were coming to buy from his bakery. And so he said to me he moved on to e-commerce. And so what he did is that he put his business on Facebook Lite. So most smartphones come preloaded with Facebook Lite and WhatsApp. And he invited people to send him e-pin. E-pin is your PIN location because, you live in the location.
Yes.
And so you send
addressing is not so strong.
Yeah. So e-pin, so on his Facebook Lite, he had his offering of buns and cakes and stuff. And then he invited people to send him e-pin and WhatsApp him their order. And then he had these young guys with trolleys who walked around delivering in a vicinity of about 15 kilometers. And we saw this real acceleration of using that kind of e-commerce. So that was a kind of start of digitization. We saw, stokvels, or what they call Ama Society, so savings groups, move on to WhatsApp because they couldn't meet face-to-face. So people would go and do the deposit at the ATM, and then they'd send a picture on the WhatsApp group. In fact, I had one old granny who said to me, she said, I use what? I was like, what's what? And she pulled out her smartphone out of her chest here, she said, hi there, this is what? Before I used to say, GG Alcock, run child and go down the road. Now I just go, what?
Yes.
So we saw, this again. So that was a start of, in a sense, digitization. The other part of it is that what we've seen over time is that there's a huge pain point around people withdrawing money at month end. Especially, starting at kind of over lockdown, you had 2 to 4 hour queues outside ATMs and at retailers. So you'd find that you go there and then just people that shy line, so as far as you can see these queues. And as I said, 2 to 4 hour queues. And most people would withdraw all of their money from the ATM and then operate in cash. Because the minute you left the shopping center or the formal space, you paid for the taxi cash, you bought ikota cash, you paid for your hair at the hair salon cash, you bought, like potatoes from the Bomama and the rank cash and so on and so forth. So that became a huge issue, people. And yet at the same time, we had a very, very high penetration of card ownership. So we have at the time, about 12 million social grant recipients. Those are 9 million child grant recipients, moms, and about 3 million old age recipients. And every one of them received a MasterCard-enabled card, a debit card. And so what you started getting is very quickly, on the one hand, you have people using WhatsApp and Facebook Lite, particularly WhatsApp. So they're on their smartphones. And on the other hand, people are withdrawing money using their card, and they know how to tap when they're at the PEP or the ShopRite or Pick and Pay. They tap with their card. So a high literacy around card usage and a high penetration. Now, it's very rare anywhere in the world that you have the poorest people having a MasterCard. If you think about it, people in the low ends, if you went to Malawi or Zimbabwe or Nigeria, no one has a card. But in South Africa, we had an average of about 2 cards per person at the lowest economic level. So that's in a sense the context and the environment that kind of, let's say in 2020 happened. What you've also always had is that in the spaza shops particularly, you've always had these little devices where you can buy what they call VAS products, which is value added, which is airtime, electricity, lotto, bus tickets, and so on. But none of those devices have ever been able to accept card payments. So what has happened then is, so going back now to Lusaka, is that what we were communicating with Lusaka is, Lusaka has about, I think, 60,000 devices. The same VAS devices selling airtime, electricity on a product called Kazang. Kazang, very high penetration in the townships. Almost all spazas will have one of these, many taverns, alcohol type outlets, and some salons, but very high penetration of these devices. We can buy airtime, electricity, and so on in salons, and in taverns and spaza shops. And maybe just as an aside, what we've also seen is a growth of what I call spazarettes.
Yes.
These are supermarket type outlets.
Yes.
Cheaper than a ShopRite and a Pick and Pay on the same branded item. No queues.
Yes.
You can, in Mampara week, which is the last week of the month, when your budget is shorter than the month, you can go and buy on Squeleti, on credit with no interest and then walking distance, you save taxi.
Yes.
So we've had a sophistication of spazas moving into the spazarette sector at the same time. So anyway, cut a long story short, is that what people like Kazang did, Kazang being part of Lusaka, is they added a card acceptance device. In other words, you could come now and tap your card at the device where you used to buy airtime and electricity.
Yes.
You could tap your card or swipe your card to pay for your groceries, but also you could do what they called cashback.
Yes.
You could withdraw money out of the till.
Yes.
So now, instead of being at ATM for 2 hours or 4 hours at the shopping center, you could walk over there to the spazarette, you could tap on the thing, you could draw 200 Rand, you don't have to draw all your cash.
Yes.
You could tap, draw 100, 200, up to whatever denominations of 100 Rand.
Yes.
And then you could also pay for your groceries, as long as it was over 50 Rand.
Yes.
So in 2020, people like Kazang saw 0 transactions of card acceptance, card taps at their 50, 60,000 devices.
Yes.
In 2023, they're doing R1 billion a month in card transactions. 42% of transactions are now card payments at the spazarette, at the tavern, and so on and so forth. And in fact, at taverns, it's even higher than 42%. But across the board, it's that. So there's been this extraordinary rapid digitization of cash.
Yes.
Where people are very happy now to go to an informal outlet and say, and people don't say tap, they say swiper.
Yes.
Now you see people make their own homemade signs, swiper here.
But now that rapid adoption of card payments means that people are really comfortable and feel safe using their cards. I mean, there are alternative payment methods. People can use their cell phones, for example, and things like that.
Yeah.
Why is it that card is kind of seeing more growth than these other options?
Yeah. So maybe before I answer that again, if you look at people like Capitec, I think has 21 million bank accounts out there. So huge. I think the next biggest is FNB at 10 million. Yes. Capitec has seen also a rapid digitization. And I think it's something like, and I'm just talking from media reports I've read, is around about 60% of their 21 million people are now using things like their app.
Yes.
And it's a data-free app.
Yes.
The problem with an app is that when you open your app in the taxi rank to do something, you've opened your phone, people won't grab your phone, run away with it, and then now they can do transactions on your app. So people find things like apps not very safe. But a card, you can go there yourself and you can tap it yourself with your PIN number. Yes. People are much more comfortable with that.
Yes.
And so you've got a combination of a major pain point, the queues, and another pain point being the cost of a taxi to go to an ATM. The third pain point is that you don't get mugged in your street.
Yes.
You get mugged when you take your cash. People, Obogogo will tell you, you're coming from, you've withdrawn all your money. Yes. And on the way home, Abafana catch you and Bambinkunzi and whatever. And so then so you get robbed outside of your street. In your street, safe, if you get robbed here, the boys will be sorted out.
Yes.
So you're safe in your street, and the spazarette's in your street. So if I walk over there to the spazarette, to the Somali guy, or even the South African spazarette owner, I withdraw my cash. No one's going to stop me here. Yes. So now you've got a major safety issue with drawing money in the formal sector and carrying that cash back home.
Yes.
So these kind of things have accumulated to say to people, it's safer to tap at a spazarette.
Yes.
It's safer to withdraw my money at a spazarette. And more importantly, people will say to you, which means money that's in your hand just disappears.
Just flies,
So now, instead of drawing all your social grant, let's say you're a Gok or you earn 1,900 Rand a month, instead of drawing all of that money now, and carrying that now and having it there, and also, the kids come out, Gok, or, you can say, I don't have money. So now, and your black tax is a big thing. So now she can just go and draw 200 Rand.
Yes.
And she's now got enough money for e-carry and whatever.
Yes.
And then next week she'll draw another 200 Rand and stuff. And it costs her a little bit more per cashback, but it's safer, it's more manageable and stuff like that. So what has happened is that, risk issues of tapping on a device that you're not comfortable with have actually, in terms of the scale of that issue, have actually, reduced to a lower level than other issues, cost of transport and all of these other things. So I believe that there is going to be a very rapid digitization. And I think it's not only in card payments and stuff.
Yes.
I was involved in launching a product called PayShap for the banking industry.
Yes.
PayShap is a phone-to-phone instant payments across different banks.
Yes.
And in India, it's called UPI. It completely changed the payments industry in India.
Yes.
But I believe that we're going to find that digitization is going to be across a few platforms. The one is going to be card. It will probably, in the next 5 years, reduce to about, I'd say, 30% max of cash.
Yes.
And that cash will be sub 50 Rand payments.
Yes.
Because most of the spazas and salons will say, under 50 Rand, you can't pay by card.
Yes.
A few of the fast food outlets, Avokota outlets and stuff, will make it this cheapest product. So like a 25 Rand quarter.
Yes.
I say you can pay
swipe
25 for that.
Yeah.
But generally under 50 Rand is going to be your limit. So then if you find someone who's buying potatoes at the hawker or buying, those kind of things, will probably still use cash.
Yes.
But anything higher than 50 Rand, I personally believe that will digitize incredibly fast. It'll either be a phone, an app outside of a public place.
Yes.
It will be PayShap. And the biggest part is going to be card payments.
Yes.
And again, the reason it will also be sub 50 Rand, when you send, often they call the spazas okijima mfana.
Yes.
So run down to the spaza shop and get bread, milk, airtime, whatever.
Yes.
You're not going to give your kid your card.
Yes.
And your PIN.
Yes.
Because then someone grabs them on the way or whatever. So under 50 Rand, you'll still give the kid 20 Rand or 50 Rand, say kijema fana. But for the higher numbers, you'll pay it yourself because you go and do that grocery shopping. You don't say to the young kid, go running. So those factors are sub 50 Rand will remain cash. And there's a large number of those transactions, sure. So hence I'm saying 30%. Vast proportion will be digitized. And it won't only be digitized, it's also going to be things like delivery and what I call, e-commerce. Not with an E, with an I, like the one in the township.
E-commerce, yeah.
And that is what I was talking about with Facebook and WhatsApp and these kind of things.
Yes. So digitization is now benefiting the consumer, but I remember a couple of years ago, if I wanted to do a cashback at my local Emakule, it was quite expensive, if they even did it at all.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's pretty cheap, meaning that the merchants are encouraging it as well, and they're getting benefits. What's happening on the merchant side to push this digitization? Yeah,
so the merchant has the same issues in the sense that when they leave the spaza, especially the foreign guys, when they leave the spaza, the guys watch them. The time, and often you'll find the spaza owner will say, if he's got a van or whatever, he'll send the van with no money, and then he'll go out separately and take a taxi to the wholesaler and meet his van there.
Yes.
Or they'll do all sorts of different things, like
get his brother to come through 100%, and then they split up. Yes.
So they find there's a lot of their robbery issues happen when they leave the spazaret.
Yes.
It doesn't happen. They don't have an armed robbery generally in the street there. So what we find is that, for them, suddenly there's a huge advantage of having the money in their bank account, or if you like Kazang, it's a wallet. So if you're a foreigner, you don't have as big issues around getting a bank account. You can open a wallet. And you can then use that wallet. So Kazang has an app. When you go to the wholesaler, be it Devland or KitKat or whoever, Soweto Cash and Carry, you can then use your wallet or your bank account to pay. And so, especially in the alcohol industry, the tavern guys,
Yes.
they don't want to leave there and then go to Big Daddy's in Devland and go and buy their alcohol there,
Yes.
carrying cash. They have a similar issue.
Yes.
And also, taverns are operating at night, so they don't want to have cash and
Yes.
stuff. So for the outlet owner, what we've found is that it's even more beneficial to not operate in cash, to be able to play your suppliers. The Coca-Cola truck or the brewery's truck comes to deliver.
Yes.
Instead of you giving them cash, they penalize you for cash. They don't want to take cash. Now you can pay them. And one of the interesting things, even some of the outlets, so when the guys come to deliver, if you've prepaid,
Yes.
they arrive there sometimes to deliver, whether it's your beers or your ngutus or whatever it might be, and then they haven't got some stock. You've paid for it.
Yes.
So now you've paid, say, 2,000 Rand, and they deliver 1,800 Rands worth of stuff to you because there wasn't stock. And now you've paid an extra 200 Rand.
Yes.
Whereas now, when they arrive there, you don't pay them until they arrive. When they arrive, you pay for what you got. And if they don't have that stock, you can still go and pay elsewhere. You haven't put your cash into that thing. So there's a lot of benefits for the trader. And so what happens is the trader says, "Koko, you normally pay 5 Rand to swipe out. I won't charge you 5 Rand. Just swipe here," because now they're wanting the money onto their system as opposed to receiving cash.
Yes, awesome. So now, but then the general perception is that businesses in the township economy do not want to formalize because they don't want that paper trail. But here's this data showing that, listen, they actually enjoy the benefits. What's actually happening there.
So that story is rubbish.
Yeah.
People say, but they don't want to pay tax and all of these things.
Yes.
Absolute rubbish. In fact, many of these businesses have actually registered and so on. And if you look at it, for instance, all township businesses who are not VAT registered pay 15% VAT, but they don't claim it. Whereas most businesses can claim their 15% on their purchases, on their stock-ups. Yes. So there's a 15% benefit, which is much higher than they'd probably pay on their tax anyway.
Yes.
So, people often don't think about that VAT. And if he was registered as a company and he had a track record, he could
claim it back.
He could claim it back and so on and so forth. So the first thing is that, and when you look at the tavern environment, the alcohol environment, you have to have a liquor license.
Yes.
So you're already on the map anyway.
Yes.
And when you go and purchase your stuff at Macro or Big Daddy's, wherever, you have to show your liquor license.
Yes.
They're putting it through the system anyway. So it's not like people are really, it sounds like these are drug guys, it's all
trying
under the thing and whatever. It's not true. Most of these businesses are quite happy to have a paper trail. In fact, they prefer a paper trail.
Yes.
And there's many examples I could show you of this. I mean, people like Kazang, they started their business with putting drop safes into what's called MIDI wholesalers, which are these independent Somalian, Ethiopian wholesalers. The drop safe allows that guy to receive the cash and put it into that drop safe. The minute it goes into the safe, the risk goes away from him and the money appears on his account. Salpal is a F&B company that started this a couple of years ago. And what they saw is that there was people preferred to put the money in the drop safe, even though there was now a track record of it. And I'm talking around 300 to up to 600,000 Rand a day in cash deposits going into those.
Yes.
Because actually the disadvantage of having a paper trail is dramatically offset by the advantages of having a financial record, of having no cash and so on.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example of the record. So I just read an article again. I haven't worked with them, but people like Yoko. I think Yoko, there was an article the other day that they've dispensed about 2 billion Rand in loans.
Yes.
I've done some work with a company called Economies, which also accepts card payments. They've dispensed millions and millions of Rand to traders. So what do? If you have a track record of card transactions through their device, they will extend you an advance, call it a loan if you want, of up to 1 million Rand in some cases to invest in your store. And they will then deduct it just through the transactions that go through that.
Yes.
So there's much higher benefits of being on the map and being digitized and having a track record, a much higher benefit than this anecdotal story of they don't want to be on the map.
Yes, and actually it helps grows these businesses, because what you find a lot with township businesses is that they grow to a certain point, and perhaps they stagnate,
You're 100% right. And that's one of the very biggest problems. And I talk a lot about, the real opportunity in the townships, not about startups. There are millions of hundreds of thousands of township businesses, entrepreneurs, wherever, in every sector. I mean, we talked about salons, taverns, spazas, but then you've got all sorts of other sectors. You've got the multi sectors, as a 18 billion rand a year sector. Gasi mechanics and panel beaters, that's about 80,000 Gasi mechanics and panel beaters. The taxi sector is 50 billion rand a year. There's literally everyone. There's bakeries and all of these kind of things. And the reality is that the opportunity lies in scaling up. How do they go from wherever they currently are to the next level? And generally they need things like financing. They need financial records. They need non-cash ways of managing their business and stuff like that. Now they can compare what they bought in stock and what they received for payment. What's their margin? Are they not making enough money? It's not like the back of a cigarette or on a piece of cardboard before. So these things enable these businesses to become more professional. And I believe the opportunity is what I call hybrid formalization. Certain things will be informal, like operating from a container in front of your house. But other things will be formal, like a digitizing of cash and so on.
But when we talk about technology, digitization of cash is one thing, but let's talk about township mechanics, for example. People might think a township mechanic is someone on the side of the road, who doesn't have enough spanners or something like that. But actually, technologically, they're also quite advanced in the way they run their business. Could you speak a bit to that?
Yeah, sure. A while ago, my mother-in-law has a second-hand old Mitsubishi, and I took it to a local garage here. They said, tow it to the scrapyard and dump it there. It's not worth repairing. And they told me this. Anyway, so I called my buddies, Yogasi, and I said to them, listen, I need a Mitsubishi mechanic. And these guys arrived at my place, and they looked at the car, and then they said, wait, why didn't you tell me? We needed diagnostic. And then they took the car and they went to Soweto somewhere, where they operate from. And they called me about a few days later. I went to fetch it at Midway on the edge of Soweto, where you get a lot of the mechanics there. And they had a proper diagnostic machine. They'd plugged it in, they fixed the car. And I mean, I'm talking 2 years ago. My mother-in-law refuses to service it anywhere else. She's like, Gigi, please send it to those Soweto Gasi mechanics of yours. So we make this mistake of thinking they're not. And the Gasi panel beaters and mechanics are very sophisticated business. Most of those 250,000 taxis get serviced. The ones that are not financed and still have warranty issues they're serviced. Even the panel beaters, you can drop off your vehicle, it's got some problems in it in the evening, and you fetch it tomorrow morning. You don't lose time on the road. You take it to a panel beater in the formal sector, it sits there for 6 weeks. And when you visit these guys, there's a guy also in Midway I went to visit who has a Gasi panel beating shop, and he does at any given stage 20 to 30 vehicles. It's got quite a bit, but it's like under this kind of corrugated iron roof and doesn't look, But anyway, I said to him, how do people find you? He said, on Google. So he said, Google, and I check his name. I go into Google. He's registered his business on Google, the business index there. And he says, no, people Google and then they find him, and he says they have repair quantums and this and that and whatever. And so again, these guys are quite sophisticated. And I was asked to comment on a News 24 article recently where they highlighted that a large number of the Uber and Bolt and the e-hailing businesses now all service their cars at Gasi mechanics and panel beaters, partly because they don't have to take the vehicle off the road. They could drop that vehicle at someone's business in the evening, and the next morning they fetch it. The guys worked through the night, and then there off you go. And of course, there's the guys on the side of the road outside of Midas, and you go and buy your brake pads inside at Midas. You walk outside, hey, Lamini here. You give him the pads, pay him 350 rand, you fix them, and you drive off. But for the main things, you're surprised. I've got some lovely pictures. I've got one picture of a guy in with a Cabriolet little Mini Cooper S, and he's got the motor out, and I said to him, this motor will never go back in. That car, might as well, it'll have chickens nesting in it.
Yeah.
Hey, he got upset with me. He says, come back in a week's time.
Yeah.
A week later, I went there, the Mini was gone. He was like, yeah, you see, those pig pants.
Yes, the guys are very good at what they do.
No, and that's why I didn't call my thing the informal economy, and I called it Nkosinathi, because it implies a different thing, that it's actually an economic sector that you've got to respect. It's not just informal, and it's not just hawkers on cardboards on the ground. Actually, a lot of those sectors are highly sophisticated sectors. And even the bakeries, I'm doing a job at the moment for Supreme Flour, where we've signed up a couple of thousand bakeries on a WhatsApp database, and they can earn rewards where they can take a photo of their till slip, submit it, and depending on the number of Supreme Flour bags that they've purchased, they receive rewards, and they could get an oven or aprons or tables or whatever it might be. I mean, I'm talking now literally earlier this week, one of them sent in a WhatsApp, they'd bought 30 10 kg bags. That's a pallet of Supreme Flour.
Jeez.
And that outlet is, you go into that bakery, I mean, to get there, you go and you think, well. Then you go there, and this guy has a proper bakery. He's doing a couple of 100 loaves of bread a day, and then he's got a bakkie. He sells half his loaves of bread to Pick and Pay, who resell the bread. I mean, if Pick and Pay is accepting, it's not like some, home industry. And I think we often underestimate how sophisticated and high-tech these outlets are.
So looking at this sophistication, you did say card payment is probably going to dominate, while PayShap is going to come along. Do you think PayShap could be doing better in the South African market? I mean, we look at India and Brazil, and we see there that it's really driving the informal economy. What factors do you think are perhaps holding it back here?
So look, it's very new.
Yes.
And so it's not a well-known, and I think that there could have been a much better marketing campaign to market it. I think that there are two other primary issues. The one is that it's not a standalone payments thing. You have to open your app, put in your password and everything, and then go and find PayShap and then do it.
Yes.
The benefit, of course, you don't have to put beneficiary details. You can just put a phone number, and that reflects the other person's bank account, and it's instant. But but I do think that that's a problem, the fact that it's in-app. The other thing, that when it launched, most of the banks charged ridiculous amounts of money.
Okay.
Where then Capitec and Time Bank entered literally about a month ago or so, I'd say. And they came with like almost zero fees.
Yes.
Time Bank was zero.
Time Bank is free, yes.
Capitec was free up to a certain amount, and then a really low amount after that.
Yes.
And I think that it's short-sighted of the other banks to go with the fee structure they've gone with. It's insane. But they're protecting their own internal kind of within-bank payments, and like e-wallet, is being protected, and so on and so forth. But I think that will change. I think the cost will come down. There's no question. I mean, if Capitec has 21 million people, and then it goes and it says, we're not going to charge expensive prices, then suddenly that will accelerate it. But the thing is that in Brazil, as you mentioned, they've used WhatsApp for e-commerce and payment.
Yes.
And we're just behind the curve on WhatsApp. I mean, WhatsApp for Business is one of the most extraordinary tools. And my argument is, in Africa, and even more so in South Africa, WhatsApp is going to be the primary kind of business tool and digital tool for e-commerce and everything.
Yes.
And why is because primarily it costs data. At the beginning of the month, you buy a bundle.
Yes.
And then for the rest of the month, you've more or less got, unlimited texting and pictures and stuff like that, depending on the bundle you purchase.
Yes.
That's a very clever, kind of platform. The other thing is that, people black people love groups. The concept of community is incredibly powerful.
Yes.
Now with WhatsApp, like I hate groups. I'm always exiting groups.
Yes.
But I see some of my Kasi connections.
Yes.
There's a church group. There's a Stokvel or society group.
Yes,
there's a school group. Yes, there's a group for everything.
Yes.
Because it's a more natural way of doing things.
Yes.
And that means that WhatsApp for me is the real digital front runner.
Yes.
Followed by Facebook Lite in a way.
Yes.
Other thing is that most of these, people like Pep sell 12 to 15 million smartphones a year.
Mm-hmm.
Other companies, sell. So we sell around about 20 million plus smartphones a year. They sit around 300 to 500 Rand smartphones, but they come with a very low memory. So generally, after they come preloaded with WhatsApp and Facebook Lite, after that it becomes very difficult to load other apps because of your memory restriction.
Yes.
And that means that, and then people hate the fact that they chow your data when they auto-update.
Yes.
So I believe that, that resistance to loading and the problems to load more apps.
Yes.
This is not going to be an app revolution. It's going to be a WhatsApp revolution.
Yes.
And that digitization on those kind of platforms.
Yes.
I'm involved in a business called Yebo Fresh, which does online bulk delivery. So a spaza shop can order and then they'll have it delivered literally the next day in a township. So it's an online wholesaler basically. And we moved from an app and a website to WhatsApp. So now the spaza can just order on WhatsApp. Go onto the WhatsApp and order, and we just saw incredible take-up of that platform. So that's the direction I believe it'll go. And from a tech space and digital space, how can you incorporate technological issues that that take into account these limitations that people currently have? People want to be digital.
Yes.
They're online, they're in many ways, but it's often other things you haven't thought of, like limited memory on your phone.
Yes.
That one needs to consider.
Yes, it's true. You're right about the Kasi economy and the sense of community. I mean, most people know the person who does their hair and they probably book the appointment through WhatsApp
absolutely
beforehand. And so it would just be that one step further to say, okay, I'll pay you now on the same platform.
100%. And I mean, you mentioned hair salons,
Yes.
So the way that people, most of the hair salons, they don't employ staff. Each one of the styling stations is rented out.
Yes.
So I put up the outlet and then each person, like Uber style.
Yes.
But the interesting thing is what the guys do to advertise their new styles they might have.
Yes.
They change the profile picture on their thing to the new style. And it's a great marketing. You talk about digital. And because, of course, it shows you who's you see, your hair salon has changed their profile picture, and you go and you check, look at that new braids or whatever it might be.
And then that's
and they talk about digital. That's such a clever way, and as mentioned earlier, appropriate technology, using it to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, excellent. GG, thank you so much for your time and telling us all that you know about the Kasi economy, and we hope to see you next time again.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.